Welcome, everyone. I'm very delighted to be interviewing a former client of mine, Sally Fallon Morell, the author of this wonderful cookbook, Nourishing Traditions. And it's been very influential in my kitchen. I hope it soon will be in yours. If you don't know about it yet, we're going to introduce you to it over the next little while in our
Okay.
conversation. Thank you, Sally, for joining us today.
Oh, you're welcome.
For those of you unfamiliar with Nourishing Traditions, it's sold in many health food stores. It's sold online, and it has really influenced food culture in the United States. What it does is it captures the wisdom of many cultures' foodways from all over the world. And I wanted to ask you, first of all, Sally, how in the world did you learn about all these unique ethnic cuisine tips and tricks and techniques?
Well, I started with Weston Price and what he told us about all these different areas. Some of them really stymied me. Like I really tried to include African recipes in the book. And I met this African guy at Whole Foods, and I had him come over and cook for me one night, and the kids wouldn't eat the food. So it was a taste that, and that was the test. Would the children eat it? So I wasn't really able to include African foods. It's just not our taste. But I've started with Weston Price, and then I said to myself, well, now if we're going to make this consistent, we need to include the ways they prepare grains and the fermented foods and so forth. And I was very much helped by Jacques Delangre, who was the founder of the Celtic Sea Salt Company. And I was talking to Jacques about salt, and I put all his information about salt in, but he introduced me to a couple of books in French that had to do with fermentation of vegetables like sauerkraut, and fermentation of grains like oats and sourdough bread and so forth. So I started there. I thought, well, we need to include these recipes. These techniques are in all traditional cultures. And I just started experimenting. The kitchen counters were covered with bubbly stuff for several years. And I developed the recipes. The most successful one is the pancakes. The people just love that recipe. And soaking the oats. And that was very interesting for me because I couldn't eat oatmeal. Oatmeal gave me a toxic shock if I ate oatmeal. But once I learned to soak it, I had no problem with it. So I knew I was on the right track.
Interesting. Well,
and then I had a little book called Condiments. Just, I don't know where I got it. It was about pickled things and chutneys and stuff, but they were all canned or cooked in some way. But I thought, well, we'll start here with these ingredients, but we'll try to ferment them. And that's how I got into the fermenting. I just kept trying. The book in French talked about using whey as a culture, and so I started doing that. And the ones that worked and turned out all right, I put in the book.
So you did develop a lot of your own recipes then?
I did, yeah. And then I am a recipe collector. I have always cooked. I love to cook, and some of them I didn't use because they were not according to the principles. But anything that was typical and met those guidelines, I put in.
Well, many people that find this video may not have ever heard of Dr. Weston A. Price and his wonderful research on cultures around the world and their foodways. Can you kind of go over those principles for our uninitiated?
So Dr. Price was a dentist who traveled the world in the 1930s, studying healthy people, not unhealthy people, healthy people. And he couldn't find any healthy people in the United States. He had no controls, he said. So he traveled to 14 different cultures that had perfect dental health, that is zero or very few cavities, and naturally straight teeth and broad faces. And when they had the perfect dental health, they were also healthy in every other way. Good physiques, high immunity, no chronic disease, perfect eyesight. So what were the commonalities in these diets? Well, one was the nutrient-dense food. The foods were very rich in minerals, but particularly rich in 3 vitamins, the fat-soluble vitamins A, D, and K, which we get from animal fats, organ meats, certain types of seafood, and eggs. And so cream, butter, lard, eggs, all this. And of course, these are the very foods we're being told not to eat. And these were the foods that were considered the most important in these diets. So that's where I started. I wrote a recipe book using these foods. There's an extensive organ meat section. And I did send the manuscript to several large publishers, and they all sent it back saying, this is very interesting, but we can't publish this because it goes against what they're saying in all their other books.
Yes, it was countercultural. And
also,
what year was this that you were submitting the book?
well, in the late 90s, or well, actually mid 90s.
Mm-hmm.
And this was also the period, you know, Diet for a Small Planet was very, very influential. And it was a lot of whole grain recipes, but they weren't properly prepared. And you had all these rough grains, muffins, and what do you call oat bran? Remember the oat bran fat?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, and you know, I came along and said, hey, this is just going to cause problems with people. It's yes, we do want to eat whole grains. They're more nutritious, but they need to be prepared right or they'll ruin your gut. So really mine was the first book that talked about proper preparation of grains and the need for lacto-fermented foods and also the use of broth as something healthy.
Mm-hmm. Well, I will say that when I started cooking with broth and at your suggestion, making reduction sauces, all of a sudden my husband didn't want to lose me as a wife. He loved what was coming off the stove.
Yeah, it's the secret to the cuisines of Europe, the gourmet cuisines, is the reduction sauces using real broth, but it's also healthy. And that's really a good thing. Animal fats are the secret to satisfying food, and they're also healthy. So that's what I love about this kind of cooking. It's nutritious, but it's also delicious.
Well, one thing I think is truly amazing is that you did this research prior to the internet, correct? You couldn't Google up these ancient food preparation techniques.
Well, I spent a lot of time in the libraries and I had some books, but as I say, the books that were recommended by Jacques Delangre were invaluable. And there are translations of passages of those books in Nourishing Traditions.
Mm-hmm. And didn't you go to the cooking school over in France? Didn't you live in France for a time? And
I lived in France. I actually lived right down the street from a famous cooking school. I'm trying to think of the name of it, but I didn't have time to go there. It was, you know, every day. But I did take a wonderful class put on by the American women in Paris. And it was by an Irishman. So naturally, it was perfectly authentic. He wasn't trying to cut any corners. And I learned so much in that class. I learned about reduction sauces. I learned about cooking duck. I learned about making fish sauces. And yeah, it was a wonderful class.
So he was an Irishman teaching French cooking.
In Paris, yes.
That's awesome. So how long did it take you once you decided to write this cookbook to amass all of these recipes? Because it is quite a lengthy book, as people can see. It's
I got the idea.
It's something like 620 pages.
Here's what happened. We moved to Washington, D.C. And when we moved, my husband set up a fax machine. He was going to have a home office. And I had a very dear friend in Los Angeles, and we'd done a lot of cooking together. And I can't remember, I may have called her and said, we have a fax machine now, okay? So the very first fax I got was a fax from her saying, Sally, I think we should write a cookbook together. And I turned the paper over and I said, are you crazy? There's so many cookbooks out there. And I put it on the fax machine and sent it back to her. So right after that, we went skiing and I was sitting on the chairlift and suddenly it was like this thing hit me that I should write a book that put the ideas of the research of Weston Price into practical form.
Wow.
And it was like a, I don't know, like blast from heaven or something. I could not get this out of my head. It just became an obsession that I should write this book. So I called up my friend and I said, well, you know what? I think I am going to write a book, but I want to still be friends when we're through, and you do a lot of pasta and chocolate, and I don't think we can come to any kind of agreement. And we're still friends. We didn't do the book together, but we're still wonderful friends.
That's awesome. And so how did you get introduced to the work of Weston Price?
I bought his book in a health food store on Wisconsin Avenue, if you can believe that. It's called Now Bookstore in 1974.
This book
Yeah.
here, right?
Right.
Okay. Now, of all the recipes you put into the book, what is your favorite?
I knew you were going to ask me that. It's hard to say. I think the most practical and important recipe is the oatmeal recipe.
Okay.
Because a lot of people can't eat oatmeal unless they do it this way. So that's one. The pate, the chicken liver pate, is a very important recipe. One of my favorites in the meat section is the Korean beef. My kids just love that. And any meat recipe with a reduction sauce. The almond cookie recipes have been very popular. And I would say lastly, the pancake recipe, sourdough pancakes.
I like the crispy pancakes. I make the pancake recipe, and then with the leftovers, I get out a smaller ladle and I do little silver dollar pancakes, and then I dehydrate them for crackers.
Yeah, they make great crackers. Yeah.
They really do. They're very tasty and different. People always, enjoy them. Now, tell us a little bit about the Weston A. Price Foundation, because I know as your book gained in popularity, you got put on the board of the Price Pottinger Foundation, where you got the idea to start your own foundation. And so tell us a little bit about the foundation you started after the cookbook became a sensation.
Well, it hadn't really become a sensation at that point.
Oh, okay.
It was just starting. Well, it was moving, but I wouldn't call it a sensation. My feeling was that Price Pottinger had done a wonderful job preserving Dr. Price's work, but they were very reticent. I felt that this information was so important, especially for people wanting to have healthy babies. And we couldn't just sit on it. We had to be more out, proactive in the community. And they were just not ready to do some of the ideas I had, like having local chapters and having our brochures and things. So along with Mary Enig and Tom Cowan and my husband, Jeffrey, we started the Weston A. Price Foundation in 1999. Our first journal was spring of 2000, and our first conference was in 2000. And these things start slow. I think it's very important when you're setting up an organization to be very methodical and careful. It's not just that we're out there, setting the world on fire. But we are there with the information people need when they find us, when they're ready for us. We did do a lot of exhibiting so that we could become more known.
Mm-hmm. That's a great idea.
And
I am a card-carrying member of said organization, and I really love it. I love the way that you've engaged the public and particularly alternative health practitioners in recommending this dietary guidelines, your dietary guidelines, as opposed to the government guidelines, because they are a stark contrast. And what I discovered is that they're actually very therapeutic for a lot of different health conditions.
Yes.
I've been to your conferences and met people who have had major turnarounds in their health simply by switching from the government guidelines to the Weston Price dietary guidelines.
And we have our own dietary guidelines. We have our 4 food groups. We have a little booklet with the 4 food groups. And the first group is animal proteins. So dairy, meat, and eggs. We don't put grains in there. We don't put legumes in there. We don't put soy foods in there. So that's the first one. The second one is grains and legumes. The third one is fruits and vegetables. And the fourth one is healthy fats and oils. And of course, the government guidelines say that you shouldn't eat any fats and oils, or very, very few. And we put a big emphasis on the healthy fats and oils.
So this is a publication of the Weston Price Foundation. It's a mini cookbook. It's got recipes in it and such. Now, I did meet a fan of yours that was prone to buying cases of your Nourishing Traditions Cookbook and giving them away as gifts. I guess she took them to housewarming gifts, bridal showers, what have you. And she told me that she felt that the first 30 pages of your cookbook was life-changing. So why don't you talk about those first 30 pages?
Actually, it's 60 pages.
I guess she stopped reading after the first 30.
Maybe she got tired of reading.
She got her fill at 30.
So I worked a long time on those. And a lot of it's about fats, trying to put the accurate information about fats. And I had Mary Enig's help with this, thank goodness, because she was the expert. Mm-hmm. And we explained how dangerous what we call the industrial seed oils are, and how healthy the animal fats are. And then we went through all the vitamins and minerals and where you get them. And we talked about meat and how important it is. And then the introduction to each chapter in the book has 2 or 3 pages of explanation as well.
It's vital nutrition education that we're not getting in our public school systems.
Yeah.
We're not getting this.
And on the opposite to the I say regulations because they are regulated. This is what kids are supposed to be eating in school and nursing homes and institutions, prisons, and so forth. And it's a very dangerous diet. But on the opposite of that, you have the all meat folks, the people who only eat meat or who don't have no carbs, which is not good either. And the people who are eating things all raw, and or you have all the schemes, the blood type scheme and the metabolic type scheme. And, all of these are very artificial, and they're not diets that you can stick with. And in fact, the paleo diet, which is kind of this low fat, no carb, no salt diet, it's a very dangerous diet, actually recommends that 2 days a week you eat junk food. So, yeah. So, yeah. The thing about our diet is it is really satisfying and it tastes good. And it's nourishing you and providing everything your body needs. And that's really the only way to get over cravings. You can't do it with willpower. Your body, let's take sugar, for example. Sugar, we crave sugar because it raises dopamine. But the other way of raising dopamine is to eat saturated fats. That raises dopamine also. So if you are eating lots of butter and cooking in lard and all these wonderful fats, using coconut oil, you're not going to have the cravings for raising your dopamine the wrong way. You're going to do it the right way with the good fats.
Interesting. It's vital, the work of the foundation, because we have to correct the dietary trends, and we have to get people away from these fad diets.
Yes.
That are extremist
Yeah.
and tend to create a cult around them. Where
Yeah,
people
the
become,
juicing is another one. I mean, there's people who just do juices and people who do juices with all raw meat. You know, our ancestors did not have blenders. They did not have juices. They squeezed the fruits and added water and let them ferment. They had lacto-fermented things, or they added the vegetables to the stew pot. And even many fruits were cooked.
Mhm. Well, I would imagine that if you don't use your teeth, your incisor teeth and your grinding teeth, that it's also going to harm your dental health, because that you have to exercise other parts of your body. And so if you're just doing a
Yeah.
liquid diet, it seems like that could make your teeth fall out eventually or something.
Well, yeah, it's a very deficient diet also, but digestion starts in the mouth with chewing,
Mm,
and signals are sent to the stomach. Here comes this. Here comes um, some good fats. Here comes some meats. Here comes some B12 or whatever. And so that definitely starts with chewing.
mm,
And when you're doing juicing, you're not giving those signals.
right. Interesting. One thing I really, really love about the cookbook, because of course, being a cookery lover myself, I have tons of cookbooks in my library, but I want the viewers to see these wonderful sidebars. This is the recipe side, and then you have these informational sidebars literally on every page. And there's one with a cute little frame around it. How in the world did you match these informational sidebars to these wonderful?
It took a long time. It really took a long time. And I got the information on, I got the inspiration for the sidebars. I was taking the dog for a walk. And I thought to myself, I was thinking, how can I get all this information in so people don't get bored? And it suddenly it came to me, oh, if you put these sidebars on every page that kind of um, relate to the recipes, people will read them. And I really have gotten wonderful feedback about the sidebars.
They're very educational, and of course you're quoting cookbook authors and experts, and it's such a variety of information. So tell us a little bit of how you gathered all that information.
Well, I'm a English major, so
Mhm.
I remembered things from various books about food. There are several from Willa Cather in there, and she's a great favorite author of mine.
Hmm.
My daughter was in college at the time and doing James Joyce, and she sent me a couple of really good quotes. One about eating kidneys. And of course, I had to get permission from all these authors. So I wrote to the James Joyce Foundation, which is run by his son. And his son answered and gave me permission on the if I would give him a book. So I said,
Aw,
yeah, yeah.
that must have been a huge amount of work. So how long did it take you from start to finish to?
So I started in 1990. The first edition came out in 1996, and I immediately wanted to make some changes. So the second edition came out in 1999, and that's what we've run with.
And how many books have you sold to date?
We're up to almost 800,000.
Oh, wow.
So we'll have a big party when we get to 1 million.
I want to be there. That is fantastic. Do you know, compared to other cookbooks, how you sold? I mean,
You can go online and put in cookbook sales. I think the biggest one is Joy of Cooking, and I think it's about 1.5 million. There's quite a few that are way in advance of my book. Diet for a Small Planet sold, I think, 1 million.
mm,
Um, the Julia Child's book sold a lot of books. So
well,
there's quite
we
a few ahead of me.
we 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 have something to shoot for then. There's
Yes,
nothing
we
wrong
do.
with ambition, and
Right, right.
and it must
But
have
it was a
taken.
surprise to me, and it was such a surprise to my kids. I mean, there was a lot of eye rolling. Oh, mom's writing this book. And then they had to And they were my tasters. If they didn't like it, I didn't put it in books, see. And so they had to taste a lot of things they didn't like.
Well,
And then, but it was just like this funny thing. Mom's written this book, but then it started to sell, and no one was more surprised than me, especially in about the 5th year. And it was all word of mouth, people recommending it to others. And I have to say, people criticize Amazon, but without Amazon, I wouldn't have had these kind of sales. And you know, there's 400 or 500 reviews on Amazon. And then all of a sudden, it was selling 1,000 books a month. And one month I sold 6,000 books. Just no one was more surprised than me.
do you know what triggered that uptick that 1 month where you sold 6,000?
I don't know. Maybe if I went back and looked at my notes, but yeah, I just don't remember. I did a lot of radio in those. Remember radio?
Yes. I was
did a lot
wondering,
of
maybe it
radio.
was one particular radio show that had a massive audience. And
I don't know. I don't. One person who really helped me was Cass Igam. He did oregano oil, and he organized, I would say, 50 radio interviews for me.
oh, wow.
Very nice. And so I was at one point I was doing a lot of radio.
I'm sure that helped. How did writing this book change your life? Because it really did put you on the map as a personality, as a thought leader about food. But from your perspective,
Definitely gave my life a purpose. I started writing when my youngest went into the 1st grade. So I had an empty nest, or sort of empty. And and it's the time when most women go back to work, right? Because they have more time, and otherwise they're just bored at home. So it definitely gave me something important to do. And all of a sudden I found myself, running the foundation, the book, and I realized that's what I'm supposed to be doing in life. So here I am.
well, I definitely believe in divine inspiration, and that thought that came to you when you were walking and that became an obsessive thought. I really do think that was, somebody pushing.
Yeah, there was no question. It hit me like a thunderbolt. You should do this book. And then I couldn't get it out of my head. If I
Right.
did this book, what would I do? How would I do it? Yeah. And then things just kind of fell in my lap, the interview with Jacques Delangre, meeting Mary Enig, the stuff on enzymes. So it just kind of came to me, I wasn't out looking.
Now, how many, let's see, how many people have told you that the book changed their life?
Well, quite a few. The ones that are the best to hear are people who've had healthy babies by following this advice and eating a nutrient-dense diet before conception. That's what I want to hear about the most. I love hearing about people getting better, but really we need to focus on the next generation. 1 child in 2 today in America has some kind of serious health problem. Fertility is way down. We're not replacing ourselves. And if we continue, I like to say, well, I don't like to say it, but we are in the 11th hour. And if we don't turn this around, there will be no people. At the same time, I'm very optimistic because people have listened and parents are applying wise practices to bring up their children, some parents. These children are hope for the future. There's so many problems we need to solve. I'm not out there to solve those problems. I'm out there to help create babies that will solve those problems.
That's awesome. And so the impact that your book will make in the world is that it will create healthier future generations, healthier than what we've got going on now.
Healthier than we are, because
Mhm.
our parents didn't know this.
No, they didn't. They got caught up in all the convenience
They did.
foods and the
They
easy
did.
things. I remember when
And the
my
vegetable oils and the anti-saturated fat, anti-egg campaign. You're supposed to do cold cereal instead of eggs and bacon. I mean, they campaigned in schools. They told the children that their parents were trying to kill them by feeding them eggs and bacon. It was
oh
nasty.
no.
Yeah.
Oh no. And I remember when cereal was just part of a healthy diet. They had
Yes.
the eggs and bacon on the plate with a tiny bowl of cereal next to it. And all of a sudden the cereal's replacing the eggs and bacon totally in a big bowl, and it's sugar laden.
Yes. And with skim milk.
Oh, definitely.
Uh,
I
yeah.
distinctly
Now,
remember my mom switching from whole milk brought to the door by a farmer to skim milk and then to powdered milk when she was trying to save money. Oh
oh
my
my goodness.
goodness. So,
Well, and concurrently with the Weston A. Price Foundation has been a campaign for real milk, which the foundation, their very first act was to adopt this as a project. We'd already set up that website in 1998, so we'd started that earlier.
mhm.
And the goal was and still is to have raw milk available to allow farmers to provide raw milk in one form or another, either human sales, pet milk, or in cow share and herd shares. Okay. To get all 50 states. Okay. So when we started it, 27 states, so just about half, had laws allowing the farmers to do this. And we only had about 30 sources in the whole country.
Mm.
Now we're up to 46 states. We only have 4 to go. 46 states that allow the sale of raw milk. The most recent one was Iowa, which caused quite a stir. So we're getting there. And when you go to our website, realmilk.com, which now has a map on it, there are thousands of sources of raw milk, literally thousands. And they're not all even listed. Just for example, Virginia has 120 cow share programs. 120. That's 120 sources for Virginians to obtain their milk, and 120 farms, small farms, that can make a decent living.
That's terrific. You know, when I was working on the campaign for Real Milk with you, I read a Virginia magazine article that said Virginia used to have 25,000 dairy farms. And at the time of that magazine, I think it was down to 7,000, something like that. It had really diminished.
Maryland is under 200.
Oh my.
But the interesting thing is the way we did it in Maryland is we got a permit to sell it as pet milk. And our farm got the first permit. And now there's 3 or 4 dozen permits in Maryland, including several farms who are doing it on a fairly large scale and delivering. That's wonderful. I mean, these are farms that can make a decent living.
That's fantastic.
And at the opposite end in California, Raw Farm, I think it's called Raw Milk Farm or Raw Farm, they're milking 900 cows. They're selling it all, and their gross income is $24 million a year. They are the most profitable dairy in the United States. And that's only doing raw milk. So
what state is that?
California.
Okay. That's wonderful.
So there are plenty of sources now, and it's wonderful what this opportunity does for farmers, because in the conventional system, they have no say on what they get for their milk, and they're getting the same price they got in World War II. So they can't make it,
That's something. And tell our viewers a little bit about why farm fresh milk is so supremely healthy for you. What's the difference?
Well, a lot of it has to do with the proteins in milk. And I can tell you there was a recent study, 2019, where they looked at processing, 4 different types of processing, heat treatment, so boiling or pasteurization, spray drying, microwaving, and even freeze drying. And all 4 methods totally messed up the proteins. They became oxidized. This was doing this with rats. It caused damage in the liver and spleen and the blood.
Mm.
And the rats had a poorer memory, and they got stupid. The rats got stupid. So the authors concluded saying, we're going to have to think of another way to process milk, because what we're doing today is, creating poison. And it's why milk consumption has declined relentlessly for the past 40 years, because it's very allergenic because of what
Yes.
happens to the proteins. So, but the thing is, you don't have to process it. We have the technology today to get clean raw milk to every growing child in this country, to every adult that needs it and wants it. We have that technology. We have the cold chain, we have the internet, we have stainless steel, we have on-farm testing. We have the technology. Instead, we're using a kind of Rust Belt technology to basically hammer and destroy nature's perfect food. And it's such a tremendous waste. And every vitamin and mineral in milk has an enzyme that attaches to it to allow 100% assimilation of this nutrient. And they're all destroyed by pasteurization.
Wow.
Also, the other thing is, what we've learned is that raw milk is inherently safe. I mean, if you're producing raw milk in a confinement system, you don't want that. But, with reasonable cleanliness and healthy cows on pasture, raw milk is inherently safe because it contains components that kill pathogens and strengthen the gut wall and provide immunity and encourage the growth of the good bacteria in the gut. So it's a very healthy food. It's a safe food, but it's also nature's most fragile food. And we need to treat our milk with respect and not heat it or process it in any way.
Well said.
Cheese is different.
So people that have leaky gut, do you imagine that the raw milk, because it strengthens the gut wall, would actually help heal a leaky gut?
It can be very, very helpful. Now, it just depends on how leaky the gut is. We recommend something called the GAPS diet for people who really have poor digestion. But this is a temporary diet that strengthens the gut wall, and then they can expand into other foods like raw milk.
Okay. Now, I know that for a while there was a blogger blogging through all the recipes of your book. Do you know if she ever finished?
I never heard back from her.
I
Some
think
of the recipes
people
are
might
not
want to
easy.
look for it. I think it was nourishingcook.com or something like that. And I understand from Michael Bedar that you are going to be featuring a Nourishing Traditions course of some sort on brightu.com.
Brighteon University, that's Mike Adams' new school. Basically, it's my 6-hour seminar, which I don't give very often anymore, but we're using the most recent version, which was 2 years ago. So it's my seminar.
And is it going through the whole cookbook, going through?
No, I do it a little differently. I present the 11 basic principles of healthy traditional diets, and then 11 ways to change your diet for the better. And there are some cooking slides for sure, but it's a little bit differently organized in the book.
And is it going to be repeated, or is it just for a limited number of dates that it's?
I don't know.
You don't know? Okay.
What the details are, yeah.
I guess if it goes well, they'll offer it again and again.
Yeah, and I think the first time it's free, but then after that there'll be a charge for it.
Okay.
$20.
Well, in the show notes, I'm going to put links to all these websites that we've mentioned and links to the BrightU registration page to sign up for that class, because some of the people watching this may want to take this conversation further and learn more from you, because you are the fount of knowledge about nourishing traditional foods. Tell us about your blog. I know you started a blog called Nourishing Traditions, correct?
Yes, and it's been going for a while now. I want to say since 2016. I don't I do about one blog a month.
Mm-hmm.
I did a series of blogs on feeding babies. I did a series of blogs that was really fun on the blue zones, and just, they presented these blue zones as people eating the perfect government recommended diet, but they're not like that at all. And those articles on the blue zones morphed into my book called Nourishing Diets. I did a whole chapter on the blue zone. I recently did a blog on Weston Price and the eugenics movement, because eugenics was really big when he was doing his research. There was a big conference in New York, and the idea of eugenics was all these people who were out of work were and poor. We had to get rid of them because they didn't have the right genes. And so these were people who created the conditions of poverty and then said, well, we just need to get rid of people because they don't have the right genetics. We don't want them to breed. I mean, horrible. And Weston Price really stood up to this and said it has nothing to do with whether they're poor, it has to do with what they're eating. And this eugenics business is it's here today with the Club of Rome, and how we need to get rid of people and they don't have good genetics, and there are people who think this way. And what we need is good food, because the genetic blueprint for what Dr. Price showed was the genetic blueprint for every human being born on this planet is a perfect blueprint. How could it be otherwise? Would the creator make a blueprint that was flawed? No, but our job as parents is to make sure that this blueprint finds expression, optimal expression,
Mm-hmm.
through the foods that we're feeding our children.
And it's something
So that was a recent blog. Call it controversial. Yeah.
It's something in our culture that we've just been blind to. And
Yes.
I personally am very grateful for what I've learned through the foundation. I've learned about how my immune system can defeat anything that's coming at me as long as I'm nourishing it. And
I did one that I thought was really interesting on some vitamin A research from 1925. And he was looking at, they fed a diet to rats, but they had no vitamin A in it. And the tissue started to break down. It started with keratinization, where the tissues actually got kind of hard and rough. And the organs, the glands, it happened mostly in the glands and the skin, but also other organs. And what we think of as the cause of disease, infection and inflammation, did not occur until long after the beginning of the breakdown of the tissue. So infection and inflammation are not the cause of disease. The cause is nutritional deficiencies. And then the infection, which is bacteria, they're the cleanup crew. And the inflammation is really the body's attempt to deal with this.
right. That's
Yeah.
so profound to realize that the real beginnings are the nutritional deficiencies, the minerals,
And
the
poisonings.
vitamins.
I mean, he wasn't poisoning these rats, but there's so many poisons out there: mercury, aluminum, fluoride, arsenic. They poison the body.
Glyphosate.
What?
Glyphosate.
Yeah.
So if people join the Weston A. Price Foundation, what do they get? Would they be more plugged into this information on a regular basis?
Yeah, they become part of our family. We have about 15,000 members or 14,000 members. They get a quarterly journal. And the journal is basically twofold. The first part of the journal tends to be very scientific, more aimed at the medical community and the scientists, but we try to make it understandable to everyone. And then the back half of the journal is more practical cooking. We have one called Technology as Servant. We're going to be doing a series on climate change or lack thereof. Then we have the chapter listings, and then what's the favorite of many people is the advertisements. And we only take small advertisements, and they're for, they have to be approved, products that we approve, and books and classes and things like that.
Yes, the shop heard round the world.
Shop heard around the world, yes.
And I do want to point out that it is a worldwide organization.
Yes, yes.
And
we have chapter leaders worldwide. We have chapter leaders in Korea. We have chapter leaders in Slovenia, France, England, Canada, New Zealand.
And the international convention brings all of them together in one place, which is really amazing. And they give CEU credits for nutrition professionals and other health professions.
We give CEUs for, I know it's nurses, I believe chiropractors, and maybe nutritionists, but we do give CEUs. The conference this year will be the 19th through the 22nd of October, and it's in Kansas City this year.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, Sally, is there anything else you'd like to share about the book or your life's work? Oh, I forgot to ask you about your farm, because now you're an award-winning cheesemaker, literally putting your passion for milk and cheese into another business. So tell us about your farm.
So it's in Southern Maryland. It's called P.A. Bowen Farmstead. And we're a pasture-based dairy farm. We don't use any corn or soy on the farm. We're not certified, but we use organic and biodynamic methods. So our signature product is cheese, raw cheese, but we also sell raw pet milk and pork that's raised in the woods on the way from the cheese, W-H-E-Y, from the cheese. And we do chickens and eggs and turkey. But we have a little store, and we also sell beef and lamb that's pasture raised. It's not our own, but we do sell beef and lamb. Lacto-fermented foods, broth, and we try to sell all of the products that are recommended by the foundation. We do sell raw cream now, and we're trying to get a permit for raw butter.
Oh, that's fantastic. I can see you now with one of those old wooden butter churns in the backyard making butter.
Well, I had to laugh because we have one young man on the farm. He wanted to do cream, and I got the permit. I got the labels for the pet cream, and he bought a hand separator, and he did that once. And then he ordered a machine separator. I just had to laugh. Apparently those hand separators are really hard to turn.
And your farm is in Brandywine, Maryland, correct?
Yes, yes.
So she has a beautiful little wedding venue and also a bed and breakfast apartment.
Oh, the bed and breakfast, no, we don't do it was an Airbnb, but we don't do that anymore.
Oh, don't do that anymore. Okay. In any event, they have wonderful events on occasion. As a member of Weston Price, you do hear about events on her farm, and you do farm tours sometimes in the summer.
We do once a month. We do a farm tour. All you need to do is call the farm and get on the list. Yeah.
Excellent, excellent.
See
well, it's been a pleasure talking to you today. Is there any parting words you want to leave?
I really urge you to join the foundation and support the work we do, and get our journal. And we do action alerts. We do updates for people. You kind of become part of this movement. Yes, the local foods movement needs you now more than ever. Yes, we have something called the 50% campaign. We urge people to spend 50% of their food dollar direct sales from small farms and artisan processors and so forth. We say the other 50%, you can celebrate how small the world has become and enjoy rice and pineapple and all those good things. So, but this is the only way we're going to change things. This change to our food system, which has to happen, is not going to come from the top. It's going to bubble up from the bottom, from the real grassroots, the real grassroots.
Yes, I love being one of your roots, Sally. This blade of grass, or these two bladed grasses of this household, are diehard Weston Price
Oh,
members,
good,
and we
good.
do support our local farmers. We even have our own wild salmon fisherman, who's
Oh,
a
good.
local fellow that spends half the year fishing in Alaska,
Mhm.
and we have a what do you call it, a fish share.
A
Anyway,
fish share.
we buy a box of fish from him, and
Oh, neat,
at the end
neat.
of his fishing season. So yeah, we have a cow share, a fish share, and the local farmers market, we keep them in business too.
Oh, and that's the way we should all be. You're
Thank
doing
you.
your part. You're doing your
Yes,
part.
thank you. And I try to influence other people to do this. I think that's part of the activism that's required as a member of the foundation, is to
Yes.
share your
And by the
passion.
way, we have local chapters. We have over 400 local chapters. And if you're having trouble finding these products where you live, you call your local chapter and they keep a list for you.
That's fantastic. I'd like to get a list of those 120 dairy farms in Virginia. I didn't know
Oh,
there
well,
were
go to
that many.
realmilk.com, realmilk.com.
They're all listed there?
Yeah, it should be, yes.
Okay. All righty. Well, thank you very much for your time today. It's been a real delight, and I'll see you around the farm.
Yes, or maybe at the conference.
Yes. Okay.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
thanks. Bye.